It's time. So, okay, we have a couple of things before we probably get to the real matter for today. I'll call on Chief Weisman.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
So we have several items to talk to you about for study session. First one, ESO contract for Firehouse. Our RMS software is up, so we wanted to renew that and get that through for next week. That's for an amount of $4,851.22. That's the records management system that we utilize for tracking our incidents, hydrants, fleet maintenance, inspections, investigation, occupancies, inventories, and analytics.
Okay, you'll
Good
bring
with
it next
that?
week, anybody, unless somebody has a problem. Bring it next week.
Next item I wanted to speak with you about was discussing the summer intern and moving forward with the summer intern. We have an applicant for the internship program. Trying to get thoughts of moving forward with that. It's a 8 to 5 position that we carried and it was budgeted, so we would like to move forward with it, but I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
This is HCC's program?
No, this is the high school one.
I will ask some comment from finance as we were trying to hold the line. We certainly want to keep the regular positions open, but this may be a summer that we don't have a summer intern. What's the budget on this?
I'd have to look and see what it is. I don't have it readily available.
You want to
It's-
say something from finance? You need to start sitting next to Jeff.
I believe, I'll double check, but I believe it was 40,000 that we budgeted for this position. But, you know, the one thing that we indicated on the
I
hiring
want to be an
freeze.
intern.
For the,
40,000 for a summer high school
Yeah,
intern?
that's what, I don't
No,
know, I'm
I-
going off the top of my head, I can't recall what it exactly was, but,
I
This
guess
is
I'd ask,
this is better than lifeguarding.
I
Here's your
guess-
chance.
I
All
guess the
four of you
one,
get 10,000 apiece.
the one thing that we did indicate on the hiring freeze, it was up to department heads in the commission to determine whether or not, it was essential for operations of that department.
how
Is
quick
our-
does that
is our-
decision?
It's $10 an hour is what we typically went through, and then on the HCC one, it was $100 a day. So they only worked 5 to 8 days a month from HCC, and the high school one was $10 an hour, kind of like the park department having a summer helper, and so that's what we had budgeted for that, and what that comes
Is this
out to.
person interested in a fire career?
I think she is, yeah. She's asked for it, so she was interested in doing that, but public safety is where she was wanting to go, so.
What is an intern, what's a typical day of what an intern would do?
So we'd go through dailies with them. Typically, we give them a remedial task to go and achieve and start building those skill sets of trying to get us being assigned something and then achieving that each day. So it changes based on the day and what the daily activities are.
Do they
How
go on
many-
calls?
They do attend calls. They don't participate in them.
How many days do you expect the person's going to work?
She was going to college in August, so we would have started it later this month and then through August.
So
So
we're talking-
about a month and a half, probably.
Talking about 6 weeks.
Yep.
6 weeks at $400 a week.
2,500.
So we're talking less than $2,500. Does anybody have a problem if we try to hire this
You
intern?
have a budget for the,
We have a budget for
like a
interns,
training or
yeah.
whatever?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was in our budget to have an intern. But
Okay.
we're cutting back, so I'll leave it to you. Well,
I
you
just
got,
would have a question for Janetta. Does it look like, as far as revenues coming in, that we're gonna be able to do anything like this? Are we out on track where you thought we would be?
Well, I can talk to a little bit that, during my, budget to actual report, but,
you can sit
you know-
next to Jeff if she won't.
the,
You,
the three revenues that I have my eye on specifically as it relates to the general fund, of which the fire department is the department within the general fund, was our property tax, sales tax, and the third being investment income. Our first initial month, which was May receipts of collections from March, which was half of the month of COVID-related timeframes, it appears that sales tax, as I reported to you guys, was below what we had in 2019 and below what we have received each month in 2020, but we have exceeded each month prior to COVID what we budgeted. We budgeted $2 million. If we stay on track at that current pace, we will make the $2 million budget as the May collections came in. As I indicated in the email that I sent to you, there were some big shifts in the top 20 taxpayers of sales tax. Hotels, as we all know, have taken a significant hit as it relates to the COVID, and so they completely dropped out of the top 20 taxpayers. Retail was up significantly, and then we had two businesses that popped up into the top 20, which I think was just a one-time March incident. And so as retail was up, where we dropped off was those businesses that I would consider the 80%, the smaller businesses. That's where we saw more of a significant shift. So that being said, if things stay where they were or where they are from May through the end of the year, we'll make that $2 million sales tax. But it's anybody's guess, if we have another incident, or retail drops and hotels don't pick up, then, we could have a shift where we may or may not hit that $2 million budget. Now, that's sales tax, which is our second largest budgeted revenue in the general fund. We did receive our June distribution on property tax, and it was up over what we had received in 2019, which was good news. I sent out to you what our delinquency rates have been for the last 5 years, which have all been, except for 1 year, under 1%. The delinquency as it relates through June, I believe, was at like 5.85%. So there is some room for those delinquencies to be paid in the rest of the year. But we didn't hit that any sort of major decline, so that indicates that people are paying their property taxes. The third biggest, or our third revenue that I'm watching, and unfortunately not going to report good news, is investment income. As Nick reported this morning, we're seeing our CDs, which were around 2.5%, now coming in at 0.28. So we are going to take, and that line item and I'll show in our budget to actual, or in our budget to actual report, we budgeted $250,000, and we are not going to come anywhere close. We'll probably take a $200,000 hit on investment income into the general fund, which is our CDs, our checking account, and our money market interest. And then the MIP, which is the Kansas Municipal Investment Pool, which we don't take any money into the general fund, but other funds related to the city do. We were getting anywhere from 1% interest. Now it's down to 0.011. and that rate is variable on a daily basis. So when we were getting a couple $1,000s a month in interest, we're now getting less than $100. So for me to say, are we out of the woods? No, because we all know that our alcohol tax will be down and the transient guest tax will be down. So we are going to not, in my opinion, make budget on all line items. But the sales tax and the property tax, as it stands right now, looks to be on tune for budget.
And those sales tax are were March collections, so we don't know where
Absolutely.
April and
Yeah.
May are gonna hit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it'll be interesting to see what the shift in those businesses, what we experience.
Okay, good.
Thanks, Trina.
We have fire positions that are open that we can't fill. And so what I would like to say is that if you wanted this position, you could bring it next week, but the total wage limit is $2,000, and I think we'll save that $2,000 on the positions that we can't fill, and that would give that person 5-week experience approximately to come in and look at that. If you fill both positions next week, we'll fire the intern.
Okay.
I'm not worried about that happening,
And
but would that be agreeable?
I'll
Yeah,
email you guys
yes.
out the budget amount too, so that
Yeah.
you can see.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the budget amount for the intern. I'm just saying, we're gonna save that much in a month of these two people. And you give it to an intern that will come in, hopefully that intern will come back to us someday when they graduate. But let's give $2,000 for that.
Bring it that way, it'd be fine.
Okay, what's your other item?
My only concern in that is I totally agree with your analysis as far as the money goes. I think that's fine. My only concern is what kind of message are we sending to the rest of the departments?
Yeah.
Oh, that's,
Well, I said in the budget meeting, whatever, this is, when we can make changes, we'll make changes, but right now, this is a small item, so if somebody has something else, they can always bring it, and we can
Okay.
discuss it.
Next item, the Williams Company submitted a grant to us again for $1,000 for COVID-related hazmat responder support. So that's $2,000. If you guys remember, they gave $1,000 about a month ago, and this is the second half of that.
Yes,
bring
Randy,
it.
you'll sponsor an intern.
Huh.
Okay, you'll bring it next week so that we can accept the grant.
The next item is the fire department requires members to keep status updates on callback personnel or out-of-service hydrants, out-of-service equipment, confined space rescue standbys, and street closures. Richard Hayden, when he worked here, developed a system software program that we've been using, and unfortunately it's out of date, and trying to get somebody to update that program, nobody will touch it because it's so far removed from today's software programs. So we budgeted last year for getting a new digital dashboard for the station. This one, it would do all those things. The first year would be $3,487 for setting it up, and then the subsequent years would be $1,596 a year after that. So that would be. What's important with that is when we have a combination department such as we are, you have members that are not kept in tune with what's out of service and what's in service every day, what street closures, what fire hydrants, so on and so forth. And we also based our decisions on callback based on who's in town and who's not in town. So that's important for us to know what coverage we have. But when you have things that are out of service, if a truck is out of service and the volunteer side or the paid call side's not made aware of that, and they come in to try to get in that apparatus to respond, they don't know unless we have it in a digital dashboard form. So that's how, other than taping up the steering wheel, which we do have a sign that says out of service on that as well, So we try to lock out and tag out the equipment and follow that procedure, but they might have no clue that a fire hydrant's out of service or a street closure's going on because they're doing their day-to-day life stuff as well. So not being in it, that's where this is very important for us to have some type of dashboard that they can have access to.
Where's this money in your budget?
It was in contracted services.
And this is not something you submitted to reduce.
No, it isn't.
Okay. Other thoughts? Anybody have a problem?
Nope,
Okay,
I don't.
bring it next week. Okay, administration. And first thing is revenue expense budget to actual report. Here's Janetta. She's becoming the Vanna White. Walk across stage.
Yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Budget to actual report. This is through the month of May. And we'll start with the general fund revenues. And as you can see, there are quite a few line items that are highlighted in blue. Through May, it is 42% of the year as indicated in the upper right-hand column. And those general fund revenues that have not hit that 42% of their budget received are highlighted in blue. And as I indicated before, the main ones that I watch all of them, but as you know, I'm particularly concerned with property tax, and as you can see, the budgeted amount of $2.6 million has a significant impact on our budget if we don't receive. And once again, this is through May, so it doesn't include the June receipts that I just talked about. But you can see that our distributions that we receive are in January, March, June, and September and October. So we will have, after June, we'll still have 2 more months. But even prior to June, the ad valorem tax, we were at 57%. And so January and June are our major receipts of ad valorem tax, as well as motor vehicle and the other taxes that we get that are distributed from the county. If you can look down, that's not in blue is retail sales tax, which we budget at $2 million. And we just happen to be right at 42% of the year, as well as 42% of our revenue collected. So we will continue to monitor that, and I will provide to you each month what my analysis of looking at what those collections are. And as you know, June will be April receipts from those tax collections. The one thing I do want to point out, as I just talked about, was investment income. And if you look on about halfway down the page, interest on investments, we budgeted $250,000. You can see that the revenues through May were $170,000. So the impact of COVID is just now really hitting us as it relates to CDs that are maturing and are going out for bid and coming in at 0.28% compared to, on average last year, we were over 2% on our CD interest rates. So we are going to take a hit. The question is, how long are interest rates going to stay this low? In talking with our financial advisor and the bankers, they anticipate the interest rates are going to stay low for quite some time. So we are not going to be out of the woods, I don't think, as it relates to our 2021 budget. as we talk about interest on our investments.
But the fact is that we budgeted 250,000 and we've already received 170. So,
Yeah.
you know, we're not going to be the 200,000 that was mentioned earlier off. We're going to be something less than that. The biggest problem that we're going to have is going to be in the budget we're putting together now for next year.
Yeah, well, the 200,000, I maybe misspoke, was over what we had received last year. I apologize for
Okay,
that.
right.
Yeah. In 2019,
Yeah.
we exceeded what we budgeted.
Yeah.
And so that's where the shift is gonna be over what we actually received. So, and then a lot of these items, as we open up, like permits and licenses, those hopefully will start to, balance back out. The ones that are also big line items are electric and water, which those are based off of quarterly distributions. So I anticipate that those will be back on track. And then the other ones aren't too far below where we budgeted. So as we start to open up, like the community building, the cabin, those sorts of things will hopefully start to pick back up, and we'll see those get back to a percentage of where we are throughout the year. So our total revenue for May in the general fund was $377,049.45. So year to date, that's $4,271,493.27. And then our ending cash balance in May in the general fund was a little over $5.2 million. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about where we are as it relates to 2019. That $4.2 million year-to-date in May of 19 was $4,573,592.38. So we're 7% or $302,000 below where we were through May in 2019. The second page are those funds outside of the general fund, and we're still talking revenues. And so you can see there are several funds that are affected also by COVID as it relates to sales tax, but more in tune with the special park and special alcohol. Those are our alcohol receipts, and we've received only 25%, and so we will receive another distribution in June. So it'll be interesting this month to see what that alcohol tax, we anticipate that to be down significantly, because that will be the quarter as it relates to the impact of COVID. The others, there's none that I'm really concerned about. We'll just continue to watch those. Are there any questions as it relates to any particular fund? It is good news. If you look at the golf course has done amazingly well as it relates to revenues coming in. So I think they are on track to save us that $25,000 in foregoing that transfer out of the general fund to golf course for the second half. So knock on wood that things will continue to stay up for them. Now we'll go to the third page and final page, and this is the expenditure side of the house. And you can see there's not very many blues, which is good news. The first section is the general fund. Those are the departments as it relates to expenditures, and there's only one department, which is the street department, and that's because we've made the full $500,000 transfer that's budgeted out of the general fund into the consolidated streets and highway fund. So that takes it at 100%. Expenditures through May were $567,785.18, Year-to-date, $3,841,220.62. As it relates to 2019, we were at $3,847,713.30, which is 0.17 below that. So we have come in $6,492.68 less than where we were at in 2019, which is phenomenal news. Thank the department heads for really keeping track of where they're at as far as expenditures and budgets, and hopefully we'll balance out what we've lost in revenue and keep watching those expenditures. And as you can see, the percent used of the total general fund, we're at 35%, and that is taking into account the $3.2 million that we have in the reserve. If there's not any questions, then the rest of the funds, the bond and interest at 48%, that is a timing thing as we make our February bond and interest payments, and then we will make the second half in August, so that will balance out. And then stormwater utility is just 1% above the 42% of the year. And as Jeff reported, they are hot and heavy completing that whole area project, so expenses have been up and the summer paying for that project. So if there are not any questions, appreciate your time. And I'll continue to update you on any good news or any concerns that come in as it relates to revenues.
Thanks, Trina.
Thank you.
Okay, we're down to administration, moving quickly.
Okay, the City Wellness Committee met last week, and in light of COVID-19 and some of the stars and some of the expectations we had associated with employee requirements to meet the insurance, or they have to have a certain number of activities that they have to be able to get the insurance discount for the upcoming year, and to get additional days off, wellness days off. The committee met last week, and you can kind of, if you look at, there's an attachment, modifications for year-end schedule. These are kind of the items we discussed talking about, and there's several items, not a lot that we changed, but we wanted to change some of the requirements on several of the items. And do you want to hit on the items, or do you want me to? Nothing's earth-shattering. We didn't change the number of stars that anybody would have. We took some of the time and the effort that it would take to get some of those stars and made it just a little bit easier to achieve for this year. There's a modified plan that's on there. Just a couple examples of things. We went from 35 verified workouts, which are instructor workouts. We went to 25, from 35 to 25. Obviously, we've had missed time where people couldn't get into classes. That's an example of something that we changed. The 5K community walks and things of that nature, a lot of those got canceled. We're going to do a challenge that includes one of those, and so we're going to try to connect those together to give everybody that same opportunity to do that. We're going to we'd like to cut the number of lunch and learns necessary. We went up this last year to 3 out of 5, and we want to go back to 2, just because I think it's more achievable and to get everybody in here. So a lot of these changes are fairly small changes, but if you can see in the modifications, I'd like to go ahead and bring it next week to adopt the modified schedule, and you can kind of see in red what we changed in that one. And so if you got any questions between now and next week, just let me know, or anything that you think needs to be changed otherwise. But this was a committee decision. The committee did meet, and these were all recommendations that came from the committee.
Okay, so anybody, he'll bring it next week. You give more detail if you want it. If you don't want it, you may hear it anyhow. Anything else with wellness? You done?
Yep.
Okay, Jeff?
Good.
We have a land plane, it's an attachment for our skid steer, and it is worn out, we need to replace it. We use this for alley maintenance as well as subgrade, when we put subgrade down. We got a quote for $1849.84.
Okay. Budget?
Go ahead.
Yes. Bring it next week.
All right. The next item, we had 3 people scheduled for the IMSA, which is International Municipal Signal Association training. They've rescheduled that for October. We got reimbursed the amount for the lodging, which we'd have to recharge again. They did not reimburse the fees for the actual training itself. So I didn't know if we were going to be able to go ahead and send all 3 or if we wanted to cut that back.
What do you got in your training budget?
He's saying that we already paid 3 registrations.
We paid 3 reservations, right?
Yeah, we
So-
paid for 3.
So
but
the
we-
only thing
we
we're
have-
looking at is
is
lodging.
motel, yeah,
Okay.
and per diem gas, but I can come with a total, if you'd like.
Come with a total next week. We're good.
Okay. And then I had 2 late entries. I don't have all the information needed here, but, well, the first one, the inspection is gonna overrun the original estimate for, Plaza East Place. I think $8,000 will, cover the additional increased cost. The original was $79,518.31.
I just think,
And you're working on that, right?
yeah, just bring it next week so we can keep
Okay.
moving.
The work is done, so now it'll just be a matter of filing out the quantities, that sort of
Right.
thing, so it shouldn't be too much more. Then the next one, and I reported that we had a conflict between the lateral sewer lines and the installation of the new storm sewer. We have a workable solution. I did get a price over the weekend, which is $79,131.20. I'm gonna work on that. And that doesn't account for, we had in the contract for installation of 30-inch storm sewer pipe. I think it's 311 feet. And that'll change to a squash pipe. So there's some additional charges, restocking and reloading, taking the pipe back that's out there. But this does not credit back. The $79,000 does not include the credit back for not installing the 30-inch pipe. So
Okay.
How did it come to I mean, did it just not know that they needed that when they designed it? or-
when they designed it, they didn't check it. They had the sanitary sewer manholes to be adjusted in the street, so they knew the sanitary sewer was out there. It just wasn't checked. So I'm going to ask them to participate in the additional cost.
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Bring some more
bring the
information.
detail next week.
Okay.
Yes,
Janetta?
Janetta?
I just want to point out a couple things, as we talked about expense reductions, the purchase of the land plane, for the Bobcat is a capital purchase out of the equipment fund, which I thought
Yes.
we had put everything on hold.
Okay.
And, same way with travel,
Yeah,
thought we had.
yeah, I agree. So when you bring it next week, you know, it's not a done deal.
Okay, do you
But
want to see
bring
it back
all-
in study
you bring-
session?
You bring, huh?
You want to see it back in study session?
Yes, if you be
Okay.
okay with it. Okay? Okay, is Milton gonna come in? Here he is, that name, here he is.
Beekeeper.
Let's go.
Morning.
Morning.
So on about March 31st, I got a complaint about the neighboring property of the complainant of them having bees in their backyard, and I guess at one point in time they were swarming in their backyard. And we looked up in the ordinance, and we didn't have anything as far as bees go. I've done some research with other cities and towns throughout McPherson. Also contacted the Kansas Honeybee Producers Association. And I'm just coming here today to see if this is something we want to pursue as far as starting up an ordinance for the city of McPherson.
I don't think it's gonna go away. I would suggest that we get something written up.
What are other communities, I mean, did you put
Some
together
of
a
the
list of what other?
some of the ones that are, let's say, Spring Hill, which is in Johnson and Miami County, they have 25 feet from each property line. They also make them register each year. Some of them says that the animal control officer goes out and inspect the hives, make sure they're compliant as far as make sure it's up to standards, which I don't know which that is. Then they have like the bees have a flight pattern that they come in and out throughout the hive. So if you keep that 25 feet from each property line, I believe that it will allow them to stay on the property when they fly in and out. And also having a water source nearby so the bees aren't going to other neighbors' yards. Like the one that we have here in town, the neighbor have a pool, so they go towards the pool, and they have young kids that have been stung already by the bees. So that's kind of where this is driving from.
They have any birds in their yard?
Birds are everywhere, so I'm guessing.
Then we maybe wear the birds and the bees ordinance.
Well, there you go.
I suckered you on that one.
Yeah,
Anyway, my suggestion is that you work with the city attorney to have something that's enforceable. If it's not enforceable, I don't want to write it.
I agree.
Okay.
We'll talk.
We'll talk.
All right.
Okay,
Sounds
thank
good
you
to me.
for coming in.
Thanks, Milt.
Now, we are down finally to the water park. Anybody need a break? Hey, okay, here's Kyle.
And I'm back. Okay, so just a couple updates. I sent you guys the detailed update last week. Just a couple of things that I put in writing. Masks will be worn by all staff. There will be signage that's posted parking lot, clear up to the entrance and in the facility. Disinfecting will be continual, plus the midday shutdown cleaning that was discussed. Information for every person entering the facility will be taken per the recommendations. So based on a little bit of research, name, phone, physical address, and mailing, or physical address / mailing address, and email. So those would be the items that we would collect. Concessions and admissions would aid and support staff for disinfecting as well. Day to day, like I said, we'll shut down midday for 40 minutes. That'll give approximately, typically a deep clean that happens at the end of every day anyway. I just decided to move that as a addition to the middle of the day. It takes about 15-20 minutes, so I figured 20 minutes for cleaning and then 20 minutes for the staff to get out of the heat. Since they're going to be wearing masks and working out there, I want to give them an additional break time to cool off and get hydrated. So that equates to about 40 minutes. So we'll shut down for 40 minutes and then open back up the facility. We'll make regular announcements also throughout the day, much like you've heard probably at Lowe's and Home Depot out in the parking lots and stuff like that. I was in Wichita and heard some announcements down there in the parking lot, so we'll do something similar to that. Just asking patrons to remember to keep good hygiene and wash their hands and keep social distancing. Financials, I did send you a revised financial thing, a financial page. The page had the addition. It's pretty much the exact same thing that I sent to you guys before, except for I added a break off of concessions, revenue, and expenses. Concessions does make approximately $5,000 every year, so wanted to put that in there for you guys to look at. Opening June 22nd, the appropriation that I would be asking for is around the $113,077, saving the city close to $70,000. Startup costs from taken from last year would be about $5,000, so total estimated savings in just the startup is $72,000. with just the startup costs, that's a overall expenses for the entire year of 24.6-ish savings over the course of the entire year. Every year we do have the staff that are out there and we're budgeted for, but I always cut people back if there's nobody in the water. If there's not people in the water and it's slow, people are going home. So I'm cutting expenses throughout the year as well. So that 24.6% savings is just the initial savings. That's not including the savings that would go forward if it's a slow day and I send people home. And then as far as revenue and bringing things in, I'm still getting emails and calls about setting up pool parties and rentals. They're anxious to get in the water. Conclusion, I would like to see the pool open June 22nd. That's 2 weeks from today. And we can revisit anything at a later date to possibly loosen procedures if permitted by you guys, and it's safe to do so. And I put a note on the front page as to what that might look like, what that would look like.
Okay, I'd like to come back with a couple of questions.
Okay.
The first one is asked last week how many chairs we have, and could we remove some of those to cut down on disinfecting? And the comment last week was that we have 200 and some chairs.
I went out and double checked. We've lost chairs over the years, but we have 181 chairs, and would cut that down basically in half to 90 chairs.
Okay,
Total.
so we would use 90 chairs.
We would use 90.
If we open.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you would still support 2 sessions. You propose 150 in the first session.
Correct.
And then 150 in the second session.
Correct.
And my question is, had mentioned earlier on that if we went to these sessions, that we have a phased opening. And if we would open, I would like to see 90 people in the first week, and then we're going to find out how well we do at disinfecting everything in that 20 minutes. And if everything is going well at the end of the first week, we would increase that to 120 and then the 150. And we will level off at the 150. But that will give us an opportunity to adjust to everything that we'd have to do if we open. Would you
Okay.
be agreeable to that?
Yes.
Okay. If we open, we have to order, what is the amount of money needed simply for startup?
Let's start.
Guide me to the right page. There's a lot of sheets.
Yeah, there was 3 documents sent to you, one financial for over the year, the policies, and then the startup costs.
Yeah, where's your startup cost in the stuff? What's the meaning of the red versus the black?
That's just who we're going with.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, just to identify who
Okay.
got the bid.
Where's your startup cost total?
The total is on the back page. At the bottom, you'll see the 2019 costs on the right column, far right column, and then the 2020 costs listed in that column. And so the 2020 cost total is $56,505 compared to last year's $61,722.
Okay. Where do you see the danger? We know the danger's not in the water.
Right.
Where's the danger?
I see the danger is per the what's medical professionals are saying is mouth-to-mouth transmission or sneezing, coughing, droplets, stuff like that. That's where I see the problem. The patrons coming into the facility, we can request and ask that they maintain 6-foot distancing, but it'll be next to impossible to completely maintain that 6-foot distancing. But with the consistent cleaning and I believe if we put it on the public, that they will, for the most part, abide by those recommendations.
Questions from other commissioners?
Kyle, you know, COVID-19's on the increase in McPherson County. The numbers have started jumping up a little bit.
Okay.
And a lot of this was from easing some of the regulations that we've had during the Ed Astor plan. I'm real concerned about that number's going up.
Okay.
There's over 110,000 people in the United States that died from this. And if news reports are true, it's now affecting younger people more than it ever has before. I'm concerned about that. And my last concern is I'm concerned that you and your staff, all due respect to you and your staff, are going to be able to meet the expectations that are set down before you. I just can't believe the kids that age and you have admitted that they're not going to maintain a 6-foot distance. I mean, they're going to get in each other's face and talk, and that's just kids. They just do that. I'm talking about kids younger than these. But I think these guys are smart enough to know that. But the little ones don't. They don't understand it. I'm real concerned about that, and I do not want this to become a nucleus of a spread that would go home to mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or something like that.
Mhm.
Those I have real issues with and real concerns. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. The cases that were on the rise in McPherson County, were those as a result of a McPherson County activity or an outside, and they brought it back to McPherson County? That would be my question.
Well, they're all related to the same thing, and that is a new cluster of the last three. The two before that, I cannot speak, and that obviously the health department, rightfully so, does not release the full activity, just like on the first cluster. It wasn't released, but if you go to a coffee shop, you can find out who it is. That's the way the thing works. But all of these last three, maybe five, are related in some way. It looks like at least the last three, and they all came together. They all had exposure to a person that had positive testing, and they all three. It's this exact same statement, and then up above it says there's a new cluster, private industry cluster. So it's coming out of some private sector establishment. So that's about all you can say on this. Overall, we still have 25 people recovered. And we have 8 people now that are not. I still think of those 8, we still have one in the hospital that's been in the hospital for quite a while. So, we're going to have, just as Dr. Norman has said, because we've increased testing, we're going to have more cases. And what we never know is how many are asymptomatic and how many are symptomatic. We're going to find out that a lot of people, just like a lot of people could test positive for influenza A but never get sick. So, but you could still possibly pass it on. So that is a problem. And when we take it home, who do we share it with if we take it home? That is an issue that we have to be concerned about. But we have example, not here, but in Florida a week ago. Most cases they've had since April. They did open up everything, no restraints. I've said all along, I believe we can support hygiene and more reopening at the same time. If we don't practice the hygiene, then we will be like other places that reopen and it's run rampant. I expect everybody's cases to go up. Even our march on Saturday, I'd say 80% of the people, maybe higher, had masks. But no social distancing, and we were still 5-6 blocks long. It's, if we test positive in the next week or two, I will not be surprised. But at least the people had masks on, and you try to do what you can do. We had hand sanitizer, we had other things. But I think the number of tests are going up. The number of deaths are moving very slow, maybe even on a downward trend. And the hospitalization, which is another real key, is coming nowhere near the prediction that we had before, even though we have more cases. So, I mean, that's sort of, you're trying to balance out, yeah, we have a lot more cases, but two, we have a downward trend in hospitalizations and deaths all across the country, even with all of these things. So I guess it's, which one of these things you want to hook your opinion to? And we're still only 5.5 months into this thing. Lord only knows what the final verdict's going to be when we get to step back away from this and look at all the detail. Quick draw data analysis has proved to be nothing but inaccurate. But that's where we're at.
Just a comment. Weekend, with the virus still at hand, and the news media was on television, on the radio, about the blue-green algae that's at some of the different reservoirs. I was at a reservoir, Canopolis, and the two swimming areas and the area that we call Sandy Shore, there were no less than 300 people in the water with signs every 30, 40, 50 feet telling them about the blue-green algae. It's a well-known fact that if your dog gets in the water and drinks the water, within 15 minutes the dog could be dead. I saw no less than 30 dogs in the water, and kids are thrashing and are carrying on and so on. So only thing I'm going to say is, if it's going to be that way, you might as well just open it up and forget about it. Take it as it comes and go from there. I just could not believe what I saw this weekend at that reservoir. That's all I've got.
Any other new data that somebody wants to present on swimming pools? Is there any other issue that needs to come in a study session? Okay, I'm going to declare that the study sessions are over and we are back in session in the